Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. In this video, we're going to be discussing some leaks and rumors surrounding some possible upcoming graphics cards from Nvidia for their RTX 30 series GPUs, and one GPU which is all but confirmed at this point. AMD the previous week came off a very impressive presentation by introducing the RX 6000 series, which not only match Nvidia's top tier GPUs such as the RTX 3080 and 3090, but also in some cases beat them by a noticeable margin. I made a video the previous week discussing and analyzing some of the results AMD posted on their site, showing off some very promising performance of their new GPUs. So if you're interested in that video, link for it will be down below. Now, one of the things that's been discussed was the fact that with the performance showcased by the RX 6800 XT and 6900 XT, wherein in some cases they come out ahead of Nvidia, you'll often see the latter retaliate by announcing a new GPU, one that might be a bit more beefed up than one of their current models that's out in the market. Historically, Nvidia have always done these types of moves so that they could maintain a leadership position in the market. When reviews for the RX Vega series came out, the Vega 56 was for the most part received decently, where on average it would be ahead of the GTX 1070 by a 5 to 10% margin, sitting between the 1070 and 1080, despite having slightly higher power draw. It was looking like the new go-to option in that mid-range segment. Nvidia of course didn't like that, so what did they do? They ended up releasing the GTX 1070 Ti, which then took back that number one spot from the Vega 56 in that market segment, even though it wasn't a huge margin. However, most of the tech press called the card pointless, and all it really did was just confuse buyers more and cannibalize sales of the GTX 1080. A year after the RTX 20 series was announced, AMD came out with the RX 5700 series. While these cards didn't target Nvidia's high-end offerings like the 2080 Ti or 2080, they did trade blows with Nvidia's mid-range GPUs like the RTX 2060 and 2070 and often came out ahead. They came in at around the same price ranges, maybe a bit cheaper, as the 5700 was priced around the same as the 2060, while the 5700 XT was like $100 cheaper than the 2070. Of course, Nvidia then released the RTX Super Series to again solidify their lead in the various market segments. They had also even gone as far as to do the same for their quote-unquote entry-level models like the 1650 and 1660, even though those cards already had Ti variants, so it just made it all the more confusing. Now, I could go on about other releases, but the whole point of me pointing out these releases is that Nvidia absolutely hate having their leadership threatened by a competitor. The RX 6000 series do just that, and this time AMD does support ray tracing and will have some other hardware technologies in the future to compete against Nvidia's tech. But obviously, it ultimately does come down to raw performance, and when people see that, hey, there's a graphics card that performs about the same as the 3090, maybe even ahead in certain scenarios, and is $500 cheaper, at that point it just seems like a no-brainer. And you can blame Nvidia for this. It's as if they deliberately set themselves up to be caught in this awkward situation by increasing the price of the 3090 to $1499 and leaving such a huge gap as the 3080 is just $699. And I did say this before, but it almost seemed like they did this on purpose so that once AMD did come out with something that was possibly faster than a 3080, they'll just release a new card such as a 3080 Super or 3080 Ti at that $999 price point, and that is exactly what it looks like they'll be doing, as it looks like Kopite on Twitter had some new information to share with us regarding a new possible high-end SKU. Kopite is a known hardware leaker, and they've had a fairly good track record with getting a lot of stuff right in regards to Nvidia hardware, so while I'll still say take it with a grain of salt, there's also a good chance of it being true. And when you think about it, from all the other previous things I pointed out, it just makes sense and was only inevitable Nvidia would do this. Kopite says that the new SKU will be the RTX 3080 Ti Founders Edition model, which will of course be based on a GA102 chip, will have 20 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory and the same FP32 count as the 3090, so it'll have the exact same CUDA core count at 10,496. However, the memory speed will be slightly lower to the same level as the 3080 and will have a lower TDP at 320 watts, which is also the same as the 3080. I can't say I didn't see this coming. Well, actually, I thought that maybe if AMD didn't deliver and the best they had to offer was just under a 3080, then we might not have seen Nvidia pull this card out, as they probably didn't need to. However, you can bet that this card will be priced around that $999 mark, which will compete directly head-to-head against the RX 6900 XT, which for consumers will be great because now you'll have more options to choose from. I mean, in some ways the 3080 Ti actually looks a bit more appealing, as you'll have better ray tracing performance and a larger memory buffer if that matters to you. However, performance-wise, don't expect anything new here or anything spectacular, as this card at best will match a 3090, which already came out as underwhelming since it was only about 10% faster than an RTX 3080 at 4K, and I also even said this in a previous video, if Nvidia do release a 3080 Ti or 20GB 3080, where would that even fit in terms of the performance bracket? All this card will do is just cannibalize sales of the RTX 3090, and just have a more price appropriate alternative option for the RX 6900 XT. I know that there will probably be a lot of salty 3090 owners who probably won't be happy to see Nvidia release this card in the near future, but who knows, Nvidia is still having supply issues and can't even get out announced cards to the market, so you guys can just add this 3080 Ti to the list of paper launches. Moving on, and the next topic I wanted to talk about was that it looks like the upcoming RTX 3060 Ti just got leaked ahead of an official announcement. And this is a peculiar situation because I wasn't sure whether Nvidia was going through with a release of the 3060 Ti first, or that we'd see a regular 3060 and then see the Ti variant later on. But a retailer from Saudi Arabia called Silicon Valley posted a listing of a Gigabyte Eagle RTX 3060 Ti on their site with 8GB of G6 memory. Then when people asked them for proof, they had posted a picture of a box and then followed up with a post of a video showing multiple 3060 Ti's in retail packaging. This is all pretty strange, and I'm just baffled as to what in the world Nvidia's management is doing. However, what this tells us is that there will definitely be a 3060 Ti coming very soon and will be released earlier than the regular 3060. Now, full specs apart from memory configuration and pricing aren't known yet, but I am suspecting this card will be probably announced at around $399 US, with the regular 3060 coming in at that $350 price point. This is interesting though, because I honestly feel like Nvidia got a bit worried, and this goes back to AMD being able to compete with Nvidia this time around, because imagine if AMD were to announce an RX 6700 for about $400 or $450, which could offer similar performance as the 3070. A GPU like that would dominate the mid-range market, but I remember seeing some rumors from Kopite a while back where they said a 3060 Ti was in the works and would have this shader count close to a 3070 and would be based on GA104, so in that case it would also perform similarly or somewhat close to a 3070. So if that were indeed the case, where it would perform close to a 3070 or, 2080 Ti, I feel like this 3060 Ti would probably be a bit faster, or quite at the worst be as fast as a 2080 Super, which for $400 would be a pretty good deal. If you guys saw my RTX 3080 review, my 2080 Super still put up some really good figures at 1440p and could handle 4K gaming as well. So I feel like Nvidia this time around took the initiative to release a GPU first that could solidify their position in this market segment. However, this also adds a bit of credence to one of my fears, that being that when they release a 3060 non-Ti, it'll probably only be a GPU with 6GB of VRAM again, which, like I said, for 2020, for a card that's going to cost around $350, that is unacceptable. And speaking of the RTX 3060, Kopite did also recently say the card will be based on GA106 and will have 3840 CUDA cores, and there will also be a 3050 Ti this time around, which will have 3584 CUDA cores. This is indeed intriguing because it looks like Nvidia may be going back to their regular naming schemes and typical GPU tiers, where you will see an X50 class card, X60 and X70 and so on in the same kind of suffix naming scheme, if you know what I mean. Like with last generation, we actually didn't have a 2050 or 2050 Ti. And I think the reason why they had to release the GTX 1600 series last generation was simply because the lower end SKUs could not have RTX included with them. They just wouldn't be able to do ray tracing with acceptable frame rates, so they made these non-RTX Turing GPUs, which weren't really all that appealing for users in that segment already as upgrade options. But this time around, since Ampere is already bringing a bigger leap in terms of performance over the previous generation, then you'll see the X50 class GPU also perform quite a bit better and will be able to do ray tracing this time around. I think price-wise, and I know a lot of you guys probably won't like that I say this, but I think for the first time, you guys are going to see an X50 class GPU start at $200, and the big selling phrase Nvidia will probably use will be along the lines of ray tracing for all, or ray tracing comes to the masses, and that will be their justification for the price hikes, in the low end segment that is. Which is displeasing to see because I never would have imagined that X50 class cards, which generally have targeted that low to mid $100 range, could possibly start selling from that low $200 range, but I guess since the high-end market was getting price hiked, it was only a matter of time until those practices trickled down to the entry level, but it is what it is. I hope you guys found this video to be informative and helpful. Let me know your thoughts down below. Check out the video description on ways to support the channel and for my other videos. If you guys are interested in more content like this, then make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.